Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at how Awakened Brutus counters Ainz. So you walked into Arena. You want to complete your daily quests. So you click Challenge and you look for your first opponent. So you click Challenge and you see an Ainz team. You see, no worries, let me refresh and find my next opponent. So you click Challenge and what do you know? You get your second Ainz team in a row. So you say to yourself, maybe I got unlucky. Maybe I should try for a third time. So you click refresh and you get a third Ainz team in a row. So how do we counter all of these Ainz teams that we see in Arena and Legends Challenge Arena? We simply put in Awakened Brutus into our team. Now Awakened Brutus has a similar effect in how he works to Tresnel. Now, Tresnel invades the enemy lines, similar to where Awakened Brutus. However, instead of jumping to the strongest enemy, how Tresnel does, Awakened Brutus will simply move forward in the direction he's currently facing. Now, as he invades the enemy lines, he will be able to use his ultimate skill. This allows him to remove all buffs that the enemy has. So this only works when he's ascended level. So here, when Albedo starts to protect Ainz, Awakened Brutus will remove all of the shields granted from Arthur, from Albedo, and any buffs that he may have. So when Ainz is powering up his haste, his attack rating, and his damage, all of those buffs will be removed by Awakened Brutus so that he can one-shot the enemy Ainz and you can claim victory. Now, in addition to all of this fantastic buff removal from the enemies, he also has a lot of damage reduction. Now, these are through his other skills that he may have, either through shields, defense stacking, or damage reduction. Now, he can always gain an immunity shield when he gets his first fatal damage, where Ainz does a significant amount of single target damage. However, Awakened Brutus can immune this damage, allowing him to keep on pushing forward and stripping the enemy Ainz of all of his buffs. Now, some of the teams that he works extremely well in are one of these three teams. Either the Energy Cycle team, replacing Arthur with Awakened Brutus, or putting him in the Brutus Invade team. So let's have a look at the Energy Cycle team. So it is made up of twins, Aziz, Rowan, Helios, and the awakened version of Brutus. So you simply put Brutus in the direction or where the Ainz is located. So if the Ainz is located in the top position, you put Brutus over here. If Ainz is located in the bottom position, you simply swap these two heroes around. Now what will happen is Brutus will invade, remove the shields, and because of all of the energy cycle, Ainz will never be able to use his ultimate skill. This will guarantee that your Brutus removes all of the enemy's shields, buffs, and anything else that they may be using, so that your Awakened Brutus can simply one-shot the enemy Ainz, and he can easily deal with his rest of his opponents. Now, even if the enemy has a hero such as Merlin or Ezio, because of the ult cancelling that your team has, the enemy team will never be able to use their ultimate skill. Now, the next is the Brutus Invade team. Now, similar to the previous Energy Cycle team, you want your Awakened Brutus to be placed in the direction where the enemy Ainz is located. So if he's located in the top, your Awakened Brutus will be located in the same or similar direction as the enemy Ainz. Now, in addition to this, you want three very important heroes. You want Athalia, Silas, and Pharrell. Now, what these three heroes do is extremely important. Silas and Pharrell will essentially make the enemy healing 0. So if there's a Merlin, a Rowan, any healer on the enemy team, they will not be able to heal the Ainz, so that your Awakened Brutus can easily shred through the enemy Ainz and claim victory. Now, the other very crucial hero is Alna. Now what Alna does, she provides a significant amount of immunity and damage reduction for Brutus so that he can survive long enough to essentially cancel out the enemy's Ainz, and so that he can survive long enough so he can ult and remove all the enemy's buffs. So if, for example, the enemy Ainz is located at the bottom, you simply swap around these two heroes, both Brutus, Awakened Brutus, and Athalia, and you'll be able to easily counter your opponent. Now the next team that we'll have a look at is the Brutus Ainz team. So you simply replace your Arthur with Awakened Brutus, and similar to the other teams, you would place your Awakened Brutus in the direction or the position where your enemy Ainz is. So if he's located at the top, you put Brutus over there. If he's located at the bottom, you can always put him over here. If, for example, in my case, my Ainz is located in the middle, it doesn't matter where you put your Awakened Brutus. Now, what's also special about him, Awakened Brutus will be able to turn the enemy's Arthur around because he can essentially jump the ranks of the enemy. He will essentially remove all the buffs that the enemy Arthur is getting from his allies so that you can easily shred through that solid and strong tank being Arthur. Now, another extremely important thing is to put your Merlin opposite the enemy's Ainz. So it doesn't really matter if, for example, your Ainz is opposite their Merlin, as long as your Merlin is always opposite their Ainz. So if he's in the middle, you place your Merlin there. If he's in the bottom direction, same thing goes, you put him in wherever position he's opposite to the enemy Ainz. Now, in addition to this, you have also Ezio. Now, essentially what happens is Awakened Brutus remove all the buffs and lower the enemy team's health. Now, when the enemy reaches a certain threshold, Ezio will simply execute the enemy and they will not be able to use any of their abilities afterwards. Now, because Awakened Brutus removes all their buffs, both of these heroes, Ainz, your Ainz, and Ezio, can easily deal enough damage so you can reduce the enemies down to that threshold. So your three main damage dealers being Ainz, Ezio, or Awakened Brutus can easily one-shot any of the enemies when they use any of their abilities. So let's have a look at how this works in battle. So the first team that we will face is the most popular team that we see in a Legends Challenger Arena. Now this team consists of the Ainz team, where it has Ainz, Albedo, Merlin, and Ezio. Now what the Tresnor will do, the Tresnor will invade the enemy lines and attack your Ainz or the enemy's Ainz. Now as we can see here, I'm putting the Merlin opposite the enemy Ainz, and the position of my Ainz does not really matter. Now we can see that the Awakened Brutus is in front of the enemy Ainz. This will allow the Awakened Brutus to invade in the enemy line, as we can see right there immediately. And he's immediately debuffing the enemies and reducing their thresholds. Now my Ezio can easily one-shot the enemies. And as we can see, their Ainz did nearly no damage to me because of my Merlin. Now as we can see, we got a victory from that. And from the battle statistics, we can see that the Awakened Brutus did the most damage. So now we're going to test out a different formation. So now we're going to test out the Awakened Brutus invade formation, which consists of Athalia, Alna, Silas, and Pharrell. Now, similar to the previous team, we want the Awakened Brutus to be in front of the enemy Ainz, similar to Athalia as well. The Athalia will jump on Ainz and start to debuff Ainz. Essentially, the Athalia provides a very important debuff where she essentially applies a bleed, which allows Brutus and any other hero to essentially one-tap the enemy Ainz and easily claim victory over my opponent. Now we can see that Awakened Brutus has no trouble dealing with the rest of the enemies. So our next opponent that we will be fighting will be a standard Ainz team consisting of Arthur, Ainz, Merlin, Ezio, and Albedo versus a energy cycle team which has Awakened Brutus. Now, The other heroes that you have on your team are also extremely important. Both Helios and his allies, being Aziz, Twins, and Rowan, provide a significant amount of energy, haste, and other various important buffs for your allies to essentially deny the enemy from using any of their ults. So as we can see, only ult that the enemy was able to use was Merlin's ult, which he used at the beginning of battle, and even Ezio, who has 500 energy at the beginning of battle, was not able to use any of his ultimate and skills during the fight.